Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Compass Plus podbyte. I'm Declan, and I'm here today with Kirsty Berry, our head of product marketing and market analytics at Compass Plus, and co-author of our new ebook, How Digital Platforms and Super Apps Can Power Up Traditional Banks. So, Kirsty, you played a key part in writing this. So, what is the piece about, and why did we release it?
Well, I think it's quite obvious that mobile banking is prevalent across the globe at the moment. And it's really accelerated in the last couple of years, especially with, government lockdowns and branch closures. So the number of mobile banking users has increased significantly. I think around 80% of bank customers in developed economies seem to be using mobile banking as their primary channel. And, with them more likely to switch if they have a bad experience, it's important for banks to be utilising the channel to the best of its abilities to avoid getting left behind. I think the majority of traditional banks seem to use mobile banking more as a tick box exercise. They've got this channel that customers are using, but they're not really doing enough with it because they're not understanding the needs of their customers and then delivering on these needs and expectations.
Okay, so just looping back there, you mentioned sort of there's a difference between what traditional and challenger banks are doing with their approaches to mobile banking. What do you think those differences are?
Well, I think with traditional banks, they have what the challenger banks are striving for, which is trust and loyalty. But because challenger banks are built from the ground up in the digital era, they inherently think mobile or digital first, and many are mobile only banks. Because of that, they have innovation ingrained in their culture and their mentality. Whereas with traditional banks, a lot of them, they have tech stacks that are more in silos. So they might have a mobile banking or digital team, but they are potentially in an innovation lab, not really integrated into the rest of the banking experience. And as such, it leads to more like disjointed and fringe innovations rather than the seamless experience that customers want. And these systems then, because they are separate to the core, obviously you are going to get integrations with any banks and systems, because there are lots of separate systems that are needed. But if they are separate, then the upgrade cycles become a bit more cumbersome and a lot more expensive to maintain. And then you don't get the conducive omni-channel experience that customers want, that the newer challenger banks are able to provide.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So it's almost like the solution to what's going on right now is for these traditional banks to sort of embrace mobile first banking and payments platforms going forward.
Yeah, I'd say, it's down to the mentality as well. It's everything. Obviously, yes, they can provide a mobile experience using innovation labs and older platforms, but it just makes it more complicated to integrate into their existing systems. Whereas the mobile first digital payments platforms, they're built for today, for the future. They're not built pre-smartphones and e-com.
Thank you for your time today, Kirsty. To round things off for our listeners, we think people should read the white paper because it gives them a real good insight into sort of the current state of play of the digital banking market and mobile banking market. And it also gives you some of like the key insight that these traditional banks would need to power up their mobile offerings and why they need to do it. So I think overall, it's just a real call to action to these organizations to start thinking mobile first and incorporating that into their payments ecosystem and building better omnichannel experiences for their customers. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next Podbyte.